Aloha and welcome to Trust and Verify, the show where we try to teach you who to trust and who to verify, all at the push of a button. Here we go. Tonight we got a big show planned. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Give you a recap of the week, give you a preview of what we think is about to happen throughout those stories. But before we get started, before we can do anything, I got to introduce my friend, my partner, my co-host, Boogie Bumper. Boogie, how's it going out there?
Very good. Thanks. Good intro there, James. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. Hello to everyone out there in Radio Land. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to have you with us. And I was just saying before the show, James, I really appreciate the Sunday night crew. These are the real hardcore supporters up at 1 a.m. We appreciate you being there, because otherwise we'd just be talking to each other, and then the show may go for 10 hours, and then we would probably end up being divorced and then just doing it on a 24-hour loop constantly. So we're glad that you're there, because it gives us a purpose and a reason to actually end the show, because otherwise it would just be a constant ongoing conversation with no ending. So thanks for being there, guys. Thanks for sharing it out, by the way. James, can you indulge me for a sec? Can I just give a little shout out to all the people on Twitter who followed me today? It's about 200 people.
Oh yeah, 200. Go ahead. Just go ahead and take the next 30 minutes.
30 minutes, yeah, that'll just about wrap it up. I'll name them all individually. Rachel and Mucho have joined us, and Kimmy, the moderator. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Sandra, Maga Princess, good to see you. Yeah, plenty of stuff going on this week. I've got lots of stuff to bring up. It's been one of those weeks. It's been like a yin and yang between the serious and the absurd. We've had serious issues dealt with and argued in terms of immigration, national security, James. And then we've had the absurd, people getting kicked out of restaurants, heckling, and Maxine Waters, for example. So where would you like to kick us off on this Sunday night?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to think about where we should start there. But first, let me bring up a couple of things here. Is that we see you guys in Chatville. Yes, both of us can see it. I see Mucho's here. I see Rachel. I see Sandra. Yeah, you guys are awesome people. I want to bring your attention down to the bottom right-hand corner below Boogie there. We've got some new stuff that we're trying out for just this episode. See how it works. Thank you to Stream Me. I want to thank our number one platform there that they've got some cool little widgets there that we're trying, and that's it just kind of tells us, if you guys are doing stuff on the platform, if you send sparkles and stuff this time, finally it should actually show up on TV. So whatever's going on, we're just trying it out. So it's not a big deal. If you guys hate it, just say, hey, we hate it. So from that, let's go to, I think we have to go into that story that ends up with Crazy Maxine, because I think that's really what everybody wants to know. It's the newest stuff that we can talk about, and we all know that she has lost her ever-loving James Brown wig-wearing mind.
Does Mama have a brand new bag? I'm not sure. It seems to me like she's been doing the same old tricks for the last 30 years, and it's finally catching up with her. But let's give you a little bit of context. The Red Hen owner, James, who booted Sarah Sanders, speaks out. I would absolutely do it again. Whoever said that these people are slow learners. The owner of Red Hen in Virginia, who asked White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders to leave, is speaking out on why she made the request. Speaking to the Washington Post, an exclusive, James, of the Washington Post, Red Hen owner Stephanie Wilkinson said she was actually home when she got a phone call informing her that Sanders had walked into her small farm-to-table restaurant. The chef said the staff is a little concerned. What should we do? I'd said I'd be down to see if it was. I mean, what a disaster, right? When you think of crises in a restaurant setting, James, I tend to think of things like we've run out of chicken, we've run out of oil to cook the chicken in, someone left a mess in the bathroom, we've run out of money to give change. These are the kinds of things that I would think of as a crisis in a restaurant setting. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
On this occasion, though, paying customer has entered the restaurant. Oh, no. What do we do? What do we do? She has opinions that I don't like. Oh, no, I don't know what I'm going to do. Wilkinson also said she had her doubts when Sanders would actually be in a restaurant in her small rural town. But once arriving, she confirmed it was true and Sanders was indeed seated at a group table with other adults. She then huddled with the staff, many of who took issue with the White House on a number of issues, and some who are gay. And asked them, why does that matter? Why is that a problem?
Why is that in the article?
And asked, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, because obviously she's a homophobe. And asked them if they thought Sanders should go. Yeah, of course. I explained to her that the restaurant has certain standards. This is the owner that has certain standards that I feel it was to uphold, such as honesty, compassion, and cooperation, James. I said, I'd like to ask you to leave. Well, at least she was being honest. This is the kicker for me. Switch over to this. Former ethics chief calls Sarah Sanders' tweet about getting booted from Red Hen clear violation of ethics rules. You evil conservative. You get kicked out of a small town family restaurant and you dare mention it on Twitter? We need to have another investigation. Can we tack this on to the back end of Robert Mueller's Russia probe?
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be absolutely, Robert Mueller's going to have to start investigating what happened at the Red Hen now. I think that, especially because the word
Russia
red
Hen.
The word red is in there. That automatically ties it to Russia. You get, red, Russia, it's automatic. So I love the key narrative that the lady put in there about, one of her rules of tolerance from the Tolerance Brigade is cooperation. Yeah. Cooperation. Yeah. I don't know what else they want us to do except accede to their wishes, which is not anything to do with cooperation. I mean, that's like, what are we supposed to cooperate to our demise? I don't get it. Like, that's just these people are Looney Tunes. That's about the best I can say. They're just Looney Tunes at this point.
It's funny you say that, actually, because I've long had this working theory, James. Here's the way I categorize the progressives. And I try to put the progressives in their own little box because I think they're a special kind of crazy. They're not necessarily, I don't think they're even Democrats. I think they're more of a cancer in the Democrat Party. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that's fair. I think you'll find a lot of Democrats don't really like progressives and vice versa. I categorize progressives as when they are getting exactly what they want for society, they make all these statements like everyone is united, things are progressing nicely, everyone is behind us, everyone supports us. And then at the first sign where somebody isn't in support and somebody speaks out against their policies, guess what? Oh, everyone's divided, right? When the other guy gets in, everyone's divided, you're divisive, you're not cooperating, right? Because it all goes outwardly. As long as everyone just shuts up and does what they're told, they say everyone's united. As soon as people start having an argument and a difference of opinion, then everything's divisive. The point here is I saw the left getting a lot of mileage out of this, saying, you guys were complaining about the gay bakery and now you've got the audacity, you're a bunch of hypocrites. And I'm like, no. You're free to kick people out as far as I'm concerned. I don't have a problem with that. Kick people out, go for it. But then, of course, what happens is when the repercussions happen, they play the victim, right?
Right.
Oh, we were standing up for cooperation and tolerance and good values, James. And now all these people are giving us hate for kicking out Sarah Sanders. You're bigots. You're Nazis. You're racists, right?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. These people, I couldn't agree with you more about them being a cancer, and that there's many Democrats that are now Trump trained. They're never going to call themselves Republican, and that's okay. We don't need them to. We're MAGA. Most of the Republicans don't want to call ourselves Republican anymore. We're MAGA. We are 100% with the president's agenda, and that's why you see the Democrats doing this crossover. Real quick to the chat room. I did see that there's some people having problems, so that anyone in that chat room knows Kimmy Jong-un is our moderator in there, and she will help you out with any problems that you have. So look for Kimmy Jong-un in there to help you out. But go ahead, Boogie.
Yeah, so this video's got nearly 2 million views. I think that counts as viral. And let's just play this through and see. Okay, so this is the other thing too, James. We can't view these things in a vacuum. So we've got countless numbers of reporters endorsing more erratic behavior. I mean, I did an article 2 weeks ago on my show It was Salon, the author of Salon, advocating complete ostracism, emotionally, financially, even family members if they voted for Trump. Like, you need to stop talking to these people. Don't give them love. You need to cut them out of your lives, right? So this, if you view it in a vacuum, you just think, oh, that's one individual crazy person over there. Who cares what they think? But then if you look at it as a tapestry and as like a unified voice, which to be honest, the left often is, then you see a pattern building up. And we're going to play a little bit more from other people later on. But if you think it's just one individual crazy person, now you actually have the politicians themselves endorsing this stuff. So let's play a little bit of Mad Max.
Now we're going to insist on it. If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet. Already, you have members of your cabinet that are being booed out of restaurants.
Yay.
That's just taking up at their house.
Yay.
Who's saying no peace, no sleep. No peace, no sleep. And guess what? We're going to win this battle because while you try and quote the Bible, Jeff Sessions and others, you really
We're going to win this battle. Look at them, James. All 30 of us.
don't know the Bible. God is on our side. On the
She doesn't even really need a microphone. She could make this speech over a cup of tea, I think, and everyone would be able to hear her. There are only 3.
side of the children. On the side of what's right.
Yep.
On the side of what.
I love the audio engineer that I think they're using a bullhorn actually instead of anything else.
She's energetic, old Mad Max. Got to give it to her. Credit where it's due. The resistance.
On the side of understanding that if we can't protect the children, we can't protect anybody. And so let's stay the course. Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them.
Push
and
back
you
on
tell
them.
they're not welcome anymore, anywhere. We want.
So if you see these people at the gas station, James, at the department store, at the Red Hen, at the restaurant, any part of their daily life, going about their business, not bothering anyone, you need to form a crowd and you need to push back on them. Now, I know that she's not saying literally push back in a physical sense, but the rhetoric's quite clear, isn't it? And, you know, I shared out that episode of the Dan Bongino show last week. And this is remember, this is happening after that call from Dan Bongino. Now, does it, like, because I had a lot of pushback from that, James, saying people, oh, this is ridiculous. There's no escalation here. Does it make sense now, my progressive friends? You have a sitting member of Congress. She's a congressman, isn't she? Congresswoman?
Yes.
Maxine?
Yes. Unfortunately.
A sitting member of Congress openly advocating for people to form crowds and harass people on the street and tell them that they're not welcome if wherever they are, whether it be a restaurant or a gas station and stuff, form crowds and push back against them. Now, I just wonder how many hospitalized protesters is it going to take for other people on the left to disassociate themselves from this? Because there's often calls, isn't there? And we'll throw right back to you. There's often calls for Republicans and conservatives to disavow people with which they have no association whatsoever. No political association, no ideological association, no cultural association, no social association, nothing. But you have to disavow anybody that the left-wing media brings up. If you start seeing crowds of protesters gathering and harassing members of government and their supporters, physically upping the ante and threatening, like in a threatening manner, in a point where, like a powder keg moment where it could escalate into violence, how many of those instances is it going to take for Democrat politicians to, you know, oh, we need to disavow this? I would suggest they never will. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I know that I recently said in the scope, and real quick, let me bring up that Kimmy Jong-un in there just made a good comment about the fact that this is sedition, isn't it? And yeah, absolutely it is. And for a sitting member of the government to foment sedition can be considered treason, to be honest with you. That's how far it can go. It depends on what the will of the people is. But you bring up the better point, which is that these crazy people are literally fomenting violence through their rhetoric. And they know that's where it's going to go because these are the same crazy whack jobs from the 60s that did the same exact thing, to where laboratories started getting blown up, to where university campuses had riots on it, to where people got shot and killed trying to suppress rioting. I mean, these people know what they're doing. They're deliberately pushing these buttons to foment violence, because then what they're going to do is the same projection-based psychosis that they always do and say, see, Trump's people are violent. What? You guys are the ones that are doing this. But here's the positive. I'm freaking happy as hell that they're no longer hiding their crazy. Like, that makes me giddy with excitement, because now the people who actually decide elections, the normal, independent, middle class American that goes to work every day, now they clearly see the crazy. They cannot say, well, it's just the rhetoric from the left, it's just the rhetoric from the right. Nope. This is in their own mouth, right there on national television, crazy on the front porch. So I think that's the best thing, is that, these people have not realized that every time they open their mouths now, they're calling me and you and Rachel and Kimmy and everybody in the chat room, they're calling us the names. We've definitely personalized this because they are attacking our ideas. That's the best thing that Trump ever did, was that Trump didn't come out with his own ideas. Trump came out as the representative of MAGA, the people. And he said, I'm returning the government to you, the people. And we believe it. We watch it. We see it. So every time that that's what they don't want. Right. And so every time they point and point fingers and they say that they want to go after the administration, we feel it personally. They're attacking us, the individual person on the MAGA Trump train. And so that's why they're losing so badly. That's why it's happening, is because we know that this isn't about Trump. This is about us. This is about our way of life. This is about the ability to protect ourselves and defend ourselves. And that's why this crazy is seriously dangerous.
Can I do a little bit of self-indulgence here and play for you the very first video I ever made, which was in early February last year, 2017. And, the more time goes on, I think the more this comes to fruition. So just have a little look-see and see what you think. But the quality is not as good as it is now. The quality is not as good as you've become accustomed to, ladies and gentlemen. But it's not bad. So it only goes for 3 minutes. Let me know what you think. If you need any more evidence that the Democrats are kind of like a ship without a rudder right now, you need only look at the behaviour of a couple of their experienced leaders, so to speak. So Hillary Clinton was the candidate, okay? Now, Elizabeth Warren, she's of the far left, another sort of elderly lady, if you want to put it that way, who's the speaker, the minority speaker in the Senate. Now, for the hearing to have the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, confirmed, right?
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Well, this the best.
So Jeff Sessions confirmation. Well, keep going.
Confirmation. Yeah. So Jeff Sessions has got a long history. Even was it the niece or the daughter of Martin Luther King came out and said what a great man he is, and the best that they can offer, the best defence was, she carried on, Elizabeth Warren, and said he's disgusting, he's disgraceful, he's a racist. Now, she was warned by Mitch McConnell, the Republican speaker, the leader in the Senate, to rein it in. You've got to behave yourself. You can't behave in this manner in this place. And she carried on regardless, and so he shut her up and said, "Okay, that's enough. You're breaking the rules." So, but what do we get out of it? Next, there's a hashtag, she resisted, and there are idiotic journalists, even down here, even being printed in the Australian, saying that this is now a rallying cry for feminists everywhere. She stood up to him. You know, this is oppression. They're stopping our freedom of speech. This is sexism. This is what you're going to get with the Democrats, and this is probably, you know, from what we've seen so far, this is all you're going to get. So if this is all they can offer, if this is all they can bring to the table, they've got Ice Cube's chance in hell of winning the election in 4 years' time, especially if people are working, especially if the economy's roaring. This is child's play. This is pathetic. And you've got Waters saying, you know, we need to impeach Donald Trump because he's hugging Vladimir Putin because Putin wants to invade Korea. I mean, these people are stark raving mad. And I'm sorry. I don't want to sound sexist or ageist, but this is a collection of old, shrieking women who are stuck in the 60s, wedded to a neo-Marxist ideology that's just not relevant anymore. Their own supporters, their own voters are leaving them in droves. So he might get the biggest Democrat vote in 4 years' time, Donald Trump, if they don't improve. If they must be able, either they're so detached and so stupid that they can't see what they're doing to their own party, or they don't care and they just want to hang on to power. It's got to be one or the other. I can't see any other way.
Did you hear? It's the latter of what you just said. It's just that clinging to power.
Clinging to power.
That's what I sort of
Nancy Pelosi and Waters and Elizabeth Warren. If the Democrats are going to have any future and any chance in 4 years' time, they've already lost over 1,000 elected seats in all levels of government over the last 8 years. How many more hundreds do they have to lose before these people get it through their heads what they're doing to the Democrat? Now, just keeping on that theme, I don't want to hog the mic too much, but check it out. This was from yesterday, James. I believe about two days ago. Let's see how much the Democrats have learned in 18 months, shall we?
Over this immigration crisis, the cries of some of the youngest children separated from their families at the border may now become part of the congressional record. Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu just played on the House floor that recording of wailing children who've been taken from their parents at the border, and he was met with some serious resistance by the Republican in charge of the session. Here's the exchange.
I wonder why. It's only against the rules.
What must that sound like?
Like, this guy thinks it's Friday night at the Improv, James.
This guy sleeps in a onesie.
Now, don't be fooled, right? Don't be fooled. You saw that video. Elizabeth Warren tried the exact same shtick, not playing the audio and stuff. The Democrats go into these situations deliberately trying to break the rules. Why? Because then they can construct a narrative. And what is the narrative they try to construct, James? The narrative they try to construct is the evil speaker, the evil people on the other side of the house. They can't hack it. They told me to shut up. They don't want to hear the sounds of their tyranny, right? And even though they know that it's against the rules to do this kind of thing, like, look at the poor excuse that he gives here.
Cite the rule, Madam Speaker. For what reason, Madam Speaker?
The gentleman is in breach of quorum.
Cite the rule, Madam Speaker.
Rule 17 of the House.
There's no rule that says I can't play sounds.
The gentleman will suspend.
Why are you trying to prevent the American people from listening to what it sounds like in a detention facility?
Why are you trying to prevent the American people from hearing what it sounds like in a detention facility, like they haven't heard the audio already? But it's against the rules to play these audio tapes, right? And so what does he say? He turns around and says, I'm not breaking any rule. There's no rule saying that I can't play the sounds of a detention facility. So if I was the Republicans, I would go in the next day wearing a bikini. I'd be drinking a six-pack, and I go, well, there's no rule saying that I can't have a nice cold Budweiser while I sit in the hall here. You know what I mean? Oh, there's no rule that I can't play the sounds of innocent women being raped by illegal immigrants in Europe, is there? Oh, you know what I mean? It's a joke. It's pathetic, and the Democrats have not learned a single thing in the last 18 months. They could have been working on policy. They could have been trying to improve, and instead they are just wedded. They're wedded to this 60s activism, which just does not play anymore. And they must be the most detached political leadership in the Western world, I think, by a long, long way. I don't know. Just my thoughts.
I could not agree with you more on almost everything you said. So, but let me start off by saying that for being, 18 months old on your video, I still almost choked to death. And that should be a lesson why you should not drink or smoke while you're doing these types of shows, because that was hilarious. You brought up the screeching women point of view for the Congress and Senate people here. Ted Lieu, like I said in the background there, he sleeps in a onesie. This is not a guy that's playing with a full deck. But you're right about what their tactics are. And what we need to remember here is that we, the people out here, the MAGA people, we want our leadership to fight back. And what better way than it would be if Mitch McConnell realized that no matter what he does, he's going to be called a racist. No matter what he does, he's going to be called an obstructionist. No matter what he does, they're going to say that he's acting outside the law, no matter what he does. So when that's the case, what is the best option here, Mitch? It's suspend the damn 60-vote rule and get our agenda through. Fight back. But he doesn't want to. This is the number one thing that shows that we have complicity with the GOP establishment, with these crazy whack job lefties. So what do we got to do? We have to double down, triple down, quadruple down, and vote now.
Well, that's what they're doing.
Exactly.
That's what they're going to do.
And that's what we have to do. We have to fight for our MAGA candidates right now in the primary. We cannot wait till November. We cannot have this mindset that we'll fix it in November. No, we need to do it now, today, yesterday. We need to fight for the MAGA candidates to fight for our agenda. And then after the November elections, after we win a majority and a supermajority, then we all collectively raise our voice and say, fire the entire leadership of the Republican Party. Not until December. Please, I am begging everybody right now to understand this point. We will divide ourselves quicker if we start calling for new leadership today than any other fashion, anything the left can do. Why? Because we are all strong and opinionated people. We all think all kinds of different things. So even though we can all collectively agree to fire Mitch's ass, even though we can all collectively agree to fire Paul Ryan, where we will never agree in a normal, rational manner is who replaces them. That's what's always created the division on the right, okay, is that we will fight each other as hard as we will fight the left. So what do we have to do?
Because we're individuals.
That's right, because we all think we're the smartest people in the room, and most of us are right. So having said that, that means that you have to realize that and strategize in your brain and say, okay, I am going to stay for once in my life. I am going to stay in lockstep with the MAGA agenda and the Trump supporting people. And we are going to vote today in our districts for MAGA candidates. We are going to vote today in our states for MAGA senators. And then when it comes November, we're going to vote for the guy that has an R behind his name, even if it's for dog catcher. And we've never even heard of the guy. Oh, the guy's got an R? Vote. And then in December, I will join you to raise holy hell. And we will then reelect new leadership, because that's the correct time right before they usher in the new Congress in January. This is about timing and strategy. So I'm begging you, we all know that the leadership sucks, but hold on, just slow down before we divide ourselves, because that's what the establishment wants. The establishment wants us divided. The establishment wants us fighting with each other over anything, just so that we quit pointing at them. They'll even throw their own selves onto the firing squad just to get you to start arguing with me, because that will distract you from what the mission is. And the mission is MAGA help for Donald Trump.
It's wedge politics 101. And see, for a long time, James, there have been conservatives. And again, this is one of those things that isn't just America-centric. Across the Western world, we know, it's not an opinion, we know that there are conservatives whose job it is to hoard the conservative vote in order to prevent real people from getting in and actually doing something. You control both sides of the equation so you can do exactly what you need to do. And this is what's now being exposed, I think, more than anything. See, I often laugh when I see hardened Democrat supporters coming in and they laugh and they're like, oh, you have to support this because this GOP person said so. Like, how many times do you see a GOP senator or congressman get quoted in the Washington Post as being anti-Trump? Oh, everybody's got to agree with it. It's the GOP. And I keep saying, no, you don't understand. Forget the GOP. Forget about that. They're part of the problem. This is a bigger issue. It's an abstract issue. And, you know, for the longest time, I've been talking about this concept of bipartisan nationalism, right? Because we're talking about, you know, you can use the term the forgotten people. I think it's apt. People on the right whose party has abandoned them in order to move to the left, and people on the left whose party has abandoned them to move further to the left. And so you've got this big chunk of reasonable people right in the middle. I mean, there's a guy who comes on my show, James, one of the guys in the chat. He's a Democrat voter. He's an ex-footballer who drives a truck and loves guns and is a nationalist.
Oh,
so
yeah,
who
Lucifer.
Are those people supposed to vote? Yeah, and he's in California. So what's happening with their leadership? Hates Nancy Pelosi, hates Maxine Waters. So, you know, they're a disgusting representation of what he believes is the true Democrat Party, right? So what's to come of these people? Same in Australia. The Coalition and the Labor Party, they're one in the same. This idea of bipartisan nationalism that we've seen now sweeping through Western Europe is about the old people getting, not the old people in terms of age, but the old left and right getting together and smashing right through the middle of the pretend, you know, the pretend differences in the major parties, because there are none. They say the right things, but they don't actually do anything. I mean, we played the clip last week, MSNBC. The guy's up there saying, oh, Morning Joe saying, this guy has credentials. He's been in office 25 years, and he loves small government, and he's pro small taxes, and he's got conservative credentials, and now it's a personality cult. These people are out proper conservatives who have been there for 25 years. It's a personality cult. And I'm like, yeah, but he hasn't done anything, Joe. That's why he's getting kicked out. Dude, anybody can say.
Totally hear the pocket protector right there. That was awesome. That's a great voice impression there. I could totally hear the pocket protector and the taped up glasses. That was perfect. Real quick, I know I'm interrupting you, but real quick, I want to say hi, Monica. We see you. We know that you screwed up your name on Stream.me. No worries. We know it takes time. Kimmy Jong-un did that too. So that's why she knows all the rules, is because she broke those. David, to address that real quick point about you worry about the elections being rigged, don't. And here's why. This is going to, ribbed. For your protection. Here is what I really want to go ahead and bring the point up to, is that you can't stress over stuff that's out of your control. What you can do is work harder. And what you can do is help your neighbor to get somebody, a family member, your wife, your mom, your grandma, anybody you know, to go down and become a poll watcher, to actually go through the little testing process to become a poll worker. Get our people in there now, before it becomes an issue, so that you have on-site agreement, that you can see stuff, that you can help control things. We have to get our people in there. And the only way to do it is to basically volunteer, sign up, do the little test at the Secretary of State. A lot of people don't know that. Look, if you guys want to do things you've never done before and you want to help the elections, go to your state's Secretary of State website and get the information. It's all there. The Secretary of State's office. Yes, they love volunteers.
They love volunteers.
Absolutely. Yep. So you can go right down there and you can do it. So don't stress about the stuff that's out of our control. Let's really stress about the things that is in our control. And that's fight everywhere. Social media, fight on any radio program you call for your candidates. Just get out the vote like you've never heard it spoken before. Go ahead, Boogie. Sorry to interrupt you.
Well, I was just going to say, can we do a little sidetrack here? Why not? We've been, what is this now, about our 6th show?
Yeah.
So I think we're at the top of the point where we can do little sidetracks and get off topic. I mean, it's a pretty random show tonight anyway, but do you guys still have vote counters? Like, so can you volunteer to be a vote counter? Okay, do that. Volunteer to be a vote counter, because if nothing else, when your preferred candidate gets absolutely slaughtered in, a very, very, very blue state, at very least, you'll know that every single vote that you counted physically yourself was accurate and on the money. There was no cheating, and you witnessed no cheating in your direct zone of the votes that you counted. See, those voting machines that you guys have floating around, I believe they started in South America during the election of, who was the guy previously running Venezuela when they first came out?
Oh, I don't remember. Wasn't it Chavez?
Chavez, yes. Yeah. That's when they first came out, right? These voting machines. See, that would never happen here in Australia. There'd be riots in the street. We don't riot over much. Usually when we've sold out of beer, that's the only time that you'll get a riot in Australia. But the other time would be with those voting machines. I want to know, why can't we just here's the scary thought for you. When you realize that the first elections held in Iraq were, at least at the polling booth, more likely to be accurate. Of course, people were getting guns shoved in their faces. Don't go to the polling booth. But if you made it through the gauntlet of gunfire to the polling booth, if you made it past the suicide bombers, the counting of the votes was probably more accurate there than it was in America. Why? Because you walk in, you dip your finger in a jar of ink, and you've got blue ink on your finger, and then every polling place you go to try and vote again, they look at your finger. If you've got ink on there, can't vote again. Very simple. And it's pencil and paper, right? Pen and paper. Done. Like, is there much of a call in America to get rid of these voting machines? Because I just find that there's something intrinsically wrong with that. I just don't trust it.
Absolutely. We've been screaming about this for, I don't know, a decade. I mean, easily, maybe even more, maybe 2 decades. We hated them from the beginning. But the whole point, the sales point came in because they want to be able to call an election on the same night. Okay, that's the only reason for it, is they just want to be able to call an election on the same night of the election. It was being driven by the mainstream media, because prior to the, I guess I want to say 90s, it was basically around the Clintons, is that, we waited until the next morning and sometimes even later through newspapers to get the election results. So we didn't know what happened for a day or two. Well, mainstream media, they wanted to speed that process up. And of course, that's how they sold these voting machines. And so now what you see is, I'm going to give a perfect example of why we need to throw them all into the ocean, is California. So California.
What, the Californians or the machines?
Well, both. We'll take all of the lefties and throw them with the machines. But no, the voting machines. So James Bradley out there in the Senate race, that's still, to this day, right now, as we talk, there's about 400,000 ballots that still have not been counted, because they're counting them by hand, because that's the way the rules work. But what they do is they use the counties that have the voting machines. Those counties, they use their electronic polling data to call the election. So this is why this is a joke, is that these guys literally still can't finish counting an election that happened, 2 weeks ago, maybe more? And yet they relied on the voting machines to tell them who won in the eleelection. It makes no sense.
I thought it was all about expediency. I thought the whole point was to result that night.
Exactly. And that's why they do it. It's hybrid crap system. I mean, where else are you going to have the digital voting machines but in LA, right? Who votes in LA? A bunch of crazy whack job lefts. I mean, this isn't a fair representation of what's going on in the whole state. We know statistically the state is about 50% Republican, 50% Democrat. So tell me, why in the world does that state, through this last election, when everybody in a state is fired up, not have a representative of the same split in vote total? Why is the vote total all over the place? Because they're lying.
Why is it like 70-30 in some places?
Right.
I keep hearing, I'm going to have to push back a bit. I keep hearing this 50-50 line. Oh, it's 50-50. The numbers just don't stack up there, and it can't all be ringing. I take your point. I mean, I'm the one who brought it up, right? We can't trust the machines, but how much can we equate to, tomfoolery at the counting station? Like, how much can we equate to the machines? Because like, you know, and I feel for Republicans in California, and I know they get upset when people, not even foreigners, they get upset when other parts of the country have a crack at California Republicans and say they're soft and they're not doing enough and stuff. I get that. It would really annoy me too. But let's be honest here. They've been getting absolutely smashed out of the park for at least 2 decades. And if it's 50-50 there, then what? Is it a question of mobilization? Is it a question of motivation? Are they so beaten over the head with, would you say, demoralization? Like, there's no way the Republicans can ever win here. It's just pumped on the media constantly, nonstop. Everybody hates Republican agendas, so they just think, oh, well, why bother going out and voting? Because we're only going to lose anyway. Is it that? I don't know.
Yeah, I you know, I mean to say in the state of California, it's about 50-50. It really, I lived there for some time. I've spent time there. I've got friends there. I mean, I know that it's pretty realistic to say, you know, maybe it's 48-51, maybe it's 49-51, or, you know, there's always a group of people that aren't involved. But as a general overall rule, it's right around 50%. And you're right. It is about motivation, but it's also about theft. It's also about redistricting. It's also about, I mean, a thousand other things, which brings me to a great point. All your points are valid. I understand where you're coming from. There's a lot of frustration over California. So now I'm going to tell everybody in the country the winning strategy for California. And that is everybody in the entire country has got to support John Cox for governor right now. Okay? It's going to help you in your district. And you can't even necessarily think about that right off the bat, but here's why. The Democrat Party is broke. They're broke. They got no money. Okay?
Yep.
We've proven that John Cox has a statistical chance in California. Okay? So, that being the case, if we all, every MAGA person in every single state in the entire country gets on board and starts supporting John Cox, send him $5, send him $10. Get out there and support John Cox. He is now the tip of the spear for the Republican Party. Why? Because he's going to pull their resources. It doesn't even matter if Cox wins. We, of course, want him to win. I encourage you to make honest effort to help him win. However, it doesn't even matter if he wins. What matters is that the Dems will have to counter almost every dollar you guys donate to John Cox, which means they won't have that, and resources and people and personnel. And yes. Yeah, and everything. What does that tell you? That's less people that can be in your district. That's less dollars that can be in your district. That's a total strategy to overwhelm and take back California. The entire country needs to get involved in this race and support John Cox. It will help the entire country. We will bankrupt the Dems even more. They're already $3 million in debt. Let's put them $30 million in debt. Let's win this race for a generation. We can do it if we all start supporting John Cox now. I don't care if they bring out a videotape of him strangling a bald eagle with his bare hands. You need to support John Cox. Okay? That is the winning strategy for the entire country. I'm telling you right now. So
it's foot on throat time.
Yes.
What you want to do, and look, the same thing happens in politics here. You want to create a resource black hole for your opposition wherever you can get them, because you target their vulnerable seats, right? And you target the seat where, like, generally speaking, you target the ones where you've got the best chance of removing them. Okay. And that's usually, it begins with small margins. So you target the small margin areas because then you can spend the least amount of resources to get the most amount of reward. But you're right in saying, because the other dynamic to this is California is the beating heart of the Democrat Party. If you stab California in the chest, like metaphysically, and if you rip out that beating heart of the Democrat Party, they will crumble, because the other things that people don't realize is that California basically runs the party, right? Like, this is where all of their heavy hitters come from. This is where all the power derives from. If you tear the California Democrats apart, the party itself will fall into like a power vacuum. And then you'll have factional war in the Democrat Party, and they will be tearing shreds off each other for the next 20 years, trying to decide who's going to be the new leaders of the Democrat Party, like nationwide, federally. So if you can bombard that particular race and get as much support in for that guy, you will force them to ignore those marginal races which the Republicans have the money to target. So you better swing the potential results in your favor. James, we're going to be labeled conspiracy theorists now because we've talked about vote rigging. So I just thought we'd go hog. I thought we'd go the full hog as I bring up this next story for you. Okay. How's this?
Awesome. We don't have it on screen yet.
No, but you've got the music, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. There we go. This was tweeted out by James Woods. James. Scientist shot dead in front of daughters 2 and 4 during California camping trip. Young girls 2 and 4 witnessed the horror as their father was shot and killed while on a camping trip in Southern California, according to reports. Tristan Burdett, 35, of Irvine, California, was bleeding from a chest wound when deputies found him in a tent early Friday at a Malibu Creek State Park campsite. The girls were unharmed. Deputies say they have no leads, working as a homicide at this point. This doctor, it turns out, apparently, for those who missed the Daniel Barron show the other night, we were talking about, we'll just say like natural medicines and stuff, big pharma starting to crap their pants. Can you expand a little bit on this for us? Because this is right up the Q alley, isn't it?
Yeah, so basically a very long time ago, especially in Trump time, Q put out a story that basically said that he was agreeing with the president, and he was actually agreeing with Alex Jones. So now we've gone completely full conspiracy theory.
Yes,
we've got it
finally,
all covered.
Finally.
So what everybody
My job is complete. I can now quit.
Yes. So basically what was stated is that we have the cures to most things already held within the government's scientific community. And they've basically withheld it from the country because basically the need for pharmaceutical companies and the government to control the people. And so they worked hand in hand to keep these things hidden. And then you find these little people around the fringes, the edges, that have been leaking this type of data for a decade or more. And they always end up dead. They always end up in this place where, they've been completely discredited as a nut job, or they end up dead. And so when you tie this in, I thought your point on this was very, very well made. And I think it's the absolutely correct point, is that when the government was taken over by Donald Trump, Alex Jones was one of those people that said, we're going to get the release to all these cures. We're going to get this information. He knows through probably Roger Stone that the president wants this information out there. And so you look at the president signing the right to try bill, and it is the absolute perfect avenue to be able to suddenly spring cures on people. This is the way you would do it. This is exactly how you would do it, because the government cannot come out overnight and say, by the way, we cured cancer 10 years ago and we've only used it for some politicians, and we couldn't tell you about it through the prior administrations. What would that do to the country? Once again, we go back to a destruction of our entire country. We know it exists, but we can't just throw it out.
Sorry, James. Can I add one thing? Can I add one thing to that I didn't mention the other night on the Barron show? Sorry to pull you up mid-flight there. It's not even just it's the disruptive nature. So we're talking like markets and everything. Do you know how much money these pharmaceutical companies are worth?
Oh, yeah.
If they had a massive financial spike, this would literally, I'm not being hyperbolic here, if all of this information got dropped on the public in one hit, it would cause a worldwide financial meltdown. The pharmaceutical companies are, and if you look at the top donors for both parties, you know how the Democrats like to come out and say, oh, the NRA, they give so much money to the Republicans. They're not even in the top 50 of people who gave money to the President Trump campaign in 2016. Not even top 50. The top 4 or 5, pharmaceuticals.
Yep.
Billions and billions and billions of dollars in research grants, in tied up with advertising, everything, funding politicians' campaigns. These are huge monoliths. And if something came out to disrupt that, disruptive technology, look out. that it would be a worldwide financial meltdown. Wall Street would plummet through the floor. It would end up in a subway station somewhere, riding with hobos, drinking cheap wine out of brown paper bags. I'm not even joking. Like that's how serious this shit is.
Oh, I know. I don't say that because you're joking. I'm laughing because it's funny as hell the way you put it. Is that absolutely you're correct. It would definitely tank the financial markets all over the place, and it would also tank the system. Now, a lot of people are like, well, that's okay, but I want you to think about the system that's in place. Many, many, many people have forgotten how our government works. It's worked this way forever. It's worked this way since prior to World War II, is that you have the government with programs like DARPA. Who knows what DARPA does? Anybody? They basically are the black ops people that do everything for the government through completely, basically like a secret society almost, okay? So what DARPA does is that DARPA is like a program that covers up the fact that when, let's say, some university professor combined with a graduate student comes up with a new technology, whatever that technology is, right? They come up with it. DARPA's the guys that come in and says, okay, here you go. We're going to fund your research, but in order to fund your research, the government now owns the patents to anything you absolutely come up with. Okay, so at the point of where you've actually got something going that actually shows up, everything gets pulled off of all of the public forums. Your doctorate dissertation suddenly disappears. The data that's gone to scientific journals disappear. Everything that you have done to that point gets sucked into this black hole, and it's gone. That's because the government is now running the game, or they've transferred it over to the other side of this coin, which is the private sector, where if DARPA doesn't take it, then what you end up with is a pharmaceutical company that is the guys that are funding all that research. So when you look at the system as a whole, all of that money is somehow getting funded to all these different research grants all over through every single university, through every single doctoral program, all over the world. So when you pull something like that, you'd collapse the entire system, not just the financial, the universities, yes, everything.
Imagine the lawsuits. Imagine the lawsuits. Every single person who's had a family member die by giving them medication when the government had, the ability to cure them. Going back how far? 30, 40 years of class actions?
Right.
Mass chaos. We're talking about mass chaos. So even though, like, this is the thing too, people, I kind of get frustrated, James, and I'm not frustrated at people because I understand, right? But I think a lot of people struggle to view things in a, some people see data points as a linear thing, like, so a timeline and a linear thing and plot points, things happen and this is what has to happen. I don't see things like that. I see things like in a sphere, and there's all these data points in different areas of the sphere, and you can draw lines to connect them, but they don't necessarily line up one after the other. So people think because we know X, Y, and Z, that means that we have to go in and arrest all the people in Congress. And I'm like, well, you've got to think about what the fallout is, and the other connections inside that sphere. What dot leads to the next dot, which leads to the next dot. I mean, sure, everybody wants justice, but can we do it in such a manner where it literally collapses the most powerful nation in the world? And if you think about it strategically, isn't that exactly what some people want? To collapse the most powerful nation in the world? The ones that they want to throw under the bus, they probably don't want that because they're going to be sacrificed, but there's always people above them, and they would be like, you know what, we're willing to take that hit, we're willing to take that risk as long as we protect ourselves. And out of the ashes they'll build a new system. Just in regards to the medicine stuff, how many people have heard of the name Ignaz Philipp Semmelweis?
No, I have no idea. Nope.
Okay. Do you know what he invented? No. He invented hand washing in hospitals. He was a physician. Yep. Before his time, people giving birth, like 50% of childbirths or something, ended up in death or something horrendous in the 1800s. All right. He came up with this theory that there are microscopic germs that get on people's hands, and when they go from patient to patient, they transfer those germs, and this causes a lot of unnecessary infection and death. He was laughed out of the medical industry. He was laughed out. He was called a kook. He was called a conspiracy theorist, if the term existed back then. He ended up going mad and died in an insane asylum, right? They had him committed. He must be a lunatic. It wasn't until years and years and years after he died that they said, wow, this guy's actually onto something. And so I always find it amusing when people say, I believe in science. And then it's like, well, why can't this person over here be developing some kind of new drug or some kind of new treatment? Like that, I'm sure they're using science. I'm pretty sure they're not eating Cheetos and jotting things down on the back of an envelope. They're like, yeah, maybe we'll just do this to cure cancer. You know, they actually put some thought into it. What are people afraid of? Right. And when you consider, like, why do we need to castigate these people? Why do we need to call them kooks? Why do we need to lambast them in the public eye and make out like it's all crazy, it's all wrong, there's nothing to see here?
Right. Most of the world's achievements in science have all been achieved by people that the entire community laughed at. Like, if you look at it like Galileo, you look at it to Sir Isaac Newton, you look at it to Ben Franklin, I mean, whoever it was, any major invention or change in philosophy, including, you know, star systems, how the earth worked, everything, every single person that furthered the actual reality of science was all laughed at by the entire scientific community of the day. It's amazing.
Do you want to kick it into another gear, James?
Yeah.
Do you want to go into the third? Okay. Let me tell you why nationalism is wrong. Let me bring this up for you. Nationalism is evil and wrong. Okay. Fareed Zarqawi, one of my favorites. Let's go. Let's see. Fareed can be reasonable sometimes. The thing that irritates me about Fareed is he's in one post, he'll be half reasonable and then half unreasonable, and it all gets mixed up and spits out a ridiculous conclusion, even though he uses elements of truth in his thesis, right? But let's check out Fareed.
Democrats are exultant that Donald Trump had to reverse his policy of separating immigrant families at the border. And there is good reason to celebrate. The policy was mean-spirited and unnecessary. But I do wonder whether Trump's retreat will prove to be as damaging to the president as liberals think. The president's cruelty made it easy to oppose his policy. But in their delight at the Trump administration's latest missteps, Democrats may be walking into a trap.
Here we go.
The larger question is surely, should the country enforce its immigration laws, or if circumvented, should we just give up? According to a UN report,
See, I'm amazed. Like, he's putting that as a question. Should the country enforce its immigration laws, or should we just give up? That's not a question. Like, that is not an option. Like, I don't think Fareed understands, because he's about to get into a whole diatribe about nationalism. I don't think he understands what a nation is.
Right.
You know, it was so funny. Politicians every now and then, James, they come out and say things like, our immigration laws are discriminatory. And I'm like, yes, darling, all immigration laws are discriminatory by definition. You know how America doesn't let in, say, convicted felons to immigrate? You know how that's a thing? Why? They're being discriminatory. So they're discriminating against convicted felons. If there was no discrimination in border laws, there would be no border. That's right. That's the reason borders exist, is to be discriminatory, to decide for yourself who comes into your nation and who doesn't.
Last year, the United States became the world's leading destination for asylum seekers, with a 44% increase of Central Americans who comprised almost half the total at about 140,000.
That's a stat right there.
David Trump suggests in The Atlantic that most of these people probably...
It's a push. Where is the left stronghold in world politics, James, remaining? Just geographically speaking, can you put your finger on it, do you think? Would it be South America, perhaps?
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah, for sure.
They're pretty much done in Western Europe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Socialism, the only place it exists anymore is South America. You're absolutely right. Socialism has been pushed into a box onto one continent for the most part, with the exception that some of it's bleeding over to you over there in Australia. It's almost exclusively in South America.
Yeah. So I guess we've just found socialism's next big export, right?
Come to escape poverty rather than violence, which is actually declining, and that many hope bringing children will help them avoid punishment.
Correct.
That's why when asked in 2014 about the tens of thousands of unaccompanied children who had come to the border, Hillary Clinton responded,
We have to send a clear message. Just because your child gets across the border, that doesn't mean the child gets to stay. So we don't want to send a message that is contrary to our laws or will encourage more children to make that dangerous journey.
And then Obama did exactly that.
Oh, how the times have changed, James.
Yes.
Has become an issue that motivates a large group of Americans passionately, perhaps like no other. Some of this might be rooted in racism, but it also represents a kind of heightened nationalism. In an era of rampant globalization, people want to believe that
they actually opposing people flowing over your border unchecked and uncounted to just go about their wishes, like go about their day as they please. That is now referred to as heightened nationalism.
Yeah. They actually have a better argument if they would go with the xenophobia argument. It's way better than the racist argument, because we know that, for one, Mexico is, I mean, who's being racist right here in claiming that they're brown people? Did most people don't even realize that it's a Caucasian nation. Like, literally, this is the reality. It's the left that thinks that it's not a Caucasian nation. In fact, there are plenty. In fact, almost all the leadership is connected to the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Mexicans. Like, this is not a race thing. This is nothing to do with it. They'd have a better argument if they went after xenophobia, because that, like you just described, is a nation is defined by its borders. Xenophobia, by definition, is a fear of outsiders. So that's the better argument than saying anything to do with race. Race, we just all go, you guys are kooks, see you later. But xenophobia, I would actually agree with them in some ways. Yes. Why? Because I don't know how they grew up. I don't know what kind of culture they grew up in. I don't know what their moral values are. I don't know if they're going to kill my children. This is a good and rational fear to have, but it's more of an argument that they would have to be able to win on.
Well, you stole my thunder. I was going to say that's why it's not a phobia. Yeah. That's why it's not a phobia, because xenophobia is rational.
Right.
It's rational and it's logical. Well, I'll just play a little bit more of this and see what you think, and then I'll show you another clip that absolutely blew my hair back.
They still maintain some sense of stability and control.
They still
nationalism has been around.
Do you see the way he's talking about it too? Oh, these ultra nationalists feel like they still maintain some sense of stability and control. Like, that's a bad thing. Like, you should give up your control. You should give up your stability. You're an ultra nationalist, and you're probably racist too.
But it is now, in a sense, the last doctrine standing.
Exactly.
The great story of the 20th century was the loss of faith. Between the ascendance of science, socialism, and secularism, people lost their ability to put their trust in the dogmas and duties of religion. But this didn't change the reality that people wanted something they could believe in, something with which they could have a deep emotional bond. Nationalism has increasingly become that substitute.
My question to the left is, James, well, what the hell do you believe in then? Like, what do you rally around? Right. What is your rallying point? What is your standard? How do you define your culture? What is your lineage? What is your historical narrative that you place yourself as a link in the chain of? Do you have one? No. We just want open borders. We want everybody to be equal, which means nobody is equal, right? Check this out. This is from Australia, James. Let me throw this up for you. See what you think of this. Lovely young lady. She's, what is she? The education officer at Sydney University. This is what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, I believe in open borders.
Yeah, that anyone should be able to go and live wherever they like.
Yeah, because I think that borders are fake constructions that don't provide anything to ordinary people and just serve to
But this is consistent with Marx's thinking, isn't it? Because he predicted that the nation state would wither away.
Well, post-revolution, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that borders are fake constructions that don't provide anything to ordinary people. And I just sent a little tweet back in response to that, James. And I said, borders are fake constructions. We know even wild animals piss on trees to mark their territory. I guess it's just a made up ideological thing, like nothing to see here, right? It's just a fake construction, James. It's not even.
That's all. That's it, guys. We don't need a border. Everybody head down to the. We don't need a wall. I mean, everybody head down to the border and just pee on the border, and we'll mark our territory that way. Yeah, these people are insane. Like literally insane. Like borders provide your entire nation. Like, it literally is like, okay, where can we grow crops within these borders? Okay, where can we mine for, elements? Okay, within these borders. Okay, where does our economy begin within these borders? Like, literally, borders is how you define your entire world. Where is your home? It's within these borders of these walls. Where do you live within these borders of this street? I mean, borders is literally the definition of life. It's entirely how you define the nation. So these people have literally lost their mind.
This is our people with our beliefs and our culture, and this is our land. And God help you if you try to take that land and our people and our culture away from us, because you will be met at the gates of hell, basically. You know, we will defend it to the last. I mean, could you imagine what a world we'd be living in if, even back when we were talking about city-states, James, and you put the big walls around the city-states to why? Stop invaders, right? Stop the outsiders. Oh, that'd be xenophobia. Imagine how well you'd go in ancient Greece walking around when Sparta's knocking on a door going, don't be xenophobic. Just let them in. Just let them in. Can't you hear their children crying?
Yeah,
history there would be no history books now. We wouldn't even exist as a society. No, just everywhere I move. I believe in.
We'd still be living in caves. Are you kidding?
Nah, like saying I believe in open borders is the exact same as saying, as far as I'm concerned, it's the same as saying I don't believe in civilization. I'm an anti-civilizationalist. And you know how people try to slander us, James, like racist and, bigot and stuff. You know what I am? I am an absolute, unabashed, very proud culturalist. I am a cultural supremacist. I don't want to infringe my culture on anybody else. Don't get me wrong. I don't think everybody should have my culture, but I will indeed defend my culture both in mind and body, and intellectually. I believe our culture is the absolute best that's ever been, and to hell with you if you say otherwise. So what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
Nothing. I'm on board. I'm on Team Boogie, cultural supremacist. There we go.
Cultural supremacists.
Now we have been defined as conspiracy theorists as well as cultural supremacists, and someone will slap a swastika over our name tomorrow. I mean, that's the vitriol of the left. They can't understand what we're saying, so they slap these strange, racist, cruel, xenophobic titles on us. When literally, it's literally just, look, I just want what's mine. Just stay the hell away from me. That's all. Just don't bring it to me. And in fact, I think that defines many ways. It defines the left versus the right. The left, the laws that they want will by their nature make me illegal to exist. The rights laws that by their very nature is what allows them to exist. We just want everybody to exist. Protect everybody. Protect your right to be a nutcase and my right to be sane. That's what the right wants to do. The left wants to just open everything up to the whole world, and no, you Nazi racist bigot, you can no longer have your religion or your gun, and you have to listen to us. It's literally the yin and the yang opposite of the whole world. And that's why this struggle goes on, decade after decade.
James, it's funny you say that, because having a conversation with a dear old friend of mine, a dear, lovely lady, okay? She's older. She's one of the hippie generation. She's on the left. And like, I was having this conversation with her, and she's like, why do you think why are you so against progress? Like, why are you so against progressivism? Why are you so against like momentum of the left? And I said to her, look, it's very simple for me, because I understand history. Now, if we follow the logical conclusion of what I believe, what my values are, what my principles are, what my cultural preference is, you will carry on as normal. You'll be free to march in the streets. You'll be free to wave banners around. You'll be free to claim that you're being oppressed and everything like that. I said, darling, when your team wins, people like me get dragged out of bed in the middle of the night and shot in an alleyway.
That's right. That's
what happens. That's why we're against it. Do you know the Sydney University definition of a fascist now, James, is someone who's anti-communist. That's the university definition now. If you're anti-communist, you are now fascist. You're a far right wing. Wow. If you're anti.
This is the problem with letting these people control the language. It's literally the problem that I have with people like Zafrid. Is that his name? Zafrid Zakaria or Fareed? Zahid? I don't know what his name is. Yeah, okay.
Fareed Zakaria. Yeah.
Whatever that guy's name was that was just talking on our show here, that guy uses these key buzzwords and in order to incite people to think that, you know, we're crazy people. Like they use the language and like to sell a lie, for example. He kept saying his policy, not the law, which is the truth. That's the reality. The law says that they have to be separated for the safety of the children. Literally, for the safety of the children, they have to be separated.
Yep.
Like a perfect example is, and this is something that I you know, we can discuss whether it's right or wrong. So I'm not making that value judgment on this particular point. It's the literal reason why we have juvenile detention facilities and adult detention facilities. You cannot put children in prison with adults. That seems like it's obvious, that it literally makes sense, like just to say that. But here, when the same exact situation is occurring, these people want to say that everybody has to be left together. So you can literally point to the fact that they're trying to sell you a narrative just based on that pure and simple fact right there. And it's why we have to take the language back. That's where I was really going with this. It's why we have to win with what the president is doing right now. It's underreported, it's under-talked about, but we need to pay attention. We're going to win on education. The president has already started the process. Mick Mulvaney is going to do it. The first step to winning here, which I predicted months ago, we were going to win on education this year, that Betsy DeVos was hiding in the wings. We hear that they are literally trying to get the Department of Education and the Department of Labor to work together and add, this is the next thing I'm going to say that nobody's talked about yet, add Mike Rowe's plan to the mix. Just think about this and think about, you can see exactly where we're headed. We're headed to the exact direction that MAGA wanted 2 years ago. It's amazing.
Well, we're in double overtime, James. Before we get to the hammering this week, a very special hammering, it is indeed one of our absolute favourites, is how do you see next week shaping up? What should we be looking for? Do you see any more movement in regards? I'm particularly interested in the continuing fallout from the IG report, mainly because it hasn't been reported. Like, my general rule of thumb has been probably for a decade now, whatever the press isn't talking about, that's what I should be looking at. So, you know, what do you see in regards to the next week? Like, what can we look forward to?
There's going to be some movement, but it's going to be coming, like, for example, I've always said this has been theater. We're going to get some leaking this week of the reports that were released from Rod Rosenstein to Nunes. That's what's going to happen this week. We're going to get some leakage on that. I don't know for sure if there will be an arrest this week. There may be something along that kind of lines, but they're going to hold a little bit more ammo until they announce the next IG report. So you're going to see movement because they got to keep the people happy right now, but it's going to be more in the vein of leaks and things that they're building to, and that's something they built to. They built that up, so we're going to get that report. Or the pressure's somehow going to be turned on for us to scream to get that report. But that's what it's going to revolve around this week, I think, is all about the documents that Rod Rosenstein provided to Nunes.
Okay. I think we might see more tears. I think the left has already constructed their narrative moving forward in regards to immigration, i.e. didn't do enough. When he signed the executive order, I was amazed. Literally 12 hours later, James. Right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm a miss, and it's my fault. I forget the general ignorance of the general mainstream media viewer. Right. And how they can get enraged at absolute nonsense that they construct themselves. 12 hours after the executive order was signed, guess what they were saying? Oh, he hasn't moved the children yet. It's like, what do you think? Like, what do you think? He signs the order and they just magically disappear like Bewitched? Like, off they go. Absolutely incredible stuff. So I think there's going to be more of that in an attempt to counteract exactly what you were just talking about there. Yeah. So what do you think? Should we start the hammering or what?
It's time for the hammering.
the hammering.
You wanted it, ladies and gentlemen, and we brought it to you. What could only be described as simultaneously the best interview that CNN's ever had and the worst interview that CNN's ever had. Let's roll with Tom Arnold.
Tonight, could Michael Cohen be sending a message to President Trump? Trump's longtime personal attorney retweeted a photo with comedian Tom Arnold that he had posted of the two of them together last night. Arnold told NBC News, quote, "It's on. I hope he, Trump, sees the picture of me and Michael Cohen and it haunts his dreams." And he said, "This dude has all the tapes this dude has ever."
See, I think from the outset, can I just say this? I'm going to give Tom Arnold a little credit here. I think he was trolling the whole time and he knows it, and he can't believe that CNN is taking it seriously. And I don't think people are giving him credit for that. But let's carry on.
Everything. Tom Arnold is out front. He's working on a new show for Viceland called The Hunt for the Trump tapes.
That is true.
Thank you for being here this evening. I have a lot to get to.
Okay,
so
Bobby.
let's jump in.
Okay, Bobby.
I know that Michael Cohen is facing a criminal investigation here in New York. I should point out no charges have been filed yet. But despite
this will be one of the very few hammerings we do where I don't think I even really have to say anything.
He's meeting with you here in New York. He's not taking reporter questions. Did he tell you that he has something incriminating on President Trump?
Well, let me say one thing about Michael Cohen. First of all, he's talking about how kind and appropriate the FBI was when they came to his place. You know,
I think he's method acting. I think he's somewhere. I think he's in a drug-induced haze, James, and he doesn't know whether he's method acting. I think he started it out as a prank, and it got way out of control. And then he tells himself, "This could actually be good for my career. I might get another job out of this." So he carries along with it. But then halfway through, he's pardon my French, his arsehole starts puckering like. Oh no, wait, I'm in way too deep. I'm in way too deep here. Like, I'm in absolute shit here. I've got to come up with something.
Donald Trump.
Stark contrast.
Yes, stark contrast. The president's trying to say the FBI are all these criminals, and it's just not true.
No. Tom, he's not trying to say the FBI are saying that the FBI are criminals.
It was completely appropriate.
It's not try.
They knocked on his door and were so nice to him.
So to be clear, Michael Cohen has zero problem with the FBI.
He has no problem with the FBI.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, people like myself and James are wear the fake news. Now let's cut to Tom Arnold.
They knocked on his door and took his stuff.
So let's get to this question I just asked. Did Michael Cohen tell
the door and took his stuff?
How could he not have any? First of all, I know.
Hold on. Yes or no? I'm just trying to get.
Well, hold on. I'm not on trial here. Hold, slow down.
I mean, hey, I tweeted out this thing and you invited me on CNN to ask me questions and I showed up, but that doesn't mean you can ask me questions. Slow down.
How can he not have stuff on incriminating on Donald Trump? Michael,
see the difference? Like, if you get asked, does he have stuff on Donald Trump? And he comes back with, how can he not have stuff on Donald Trump? That works for just about anything, does it? James, do you have a Ferrari? How can I not have a Ferrari? Are you married to Claudia Schiffer, Boogie? How can I not be married to Claudia Schiffer? You see how everything just works out?
It worked for him. He was his Ray Donovan, except since it's Trump, it's like, reality show Ray Donovan. No offense, Michael. But
no offense, Michael. We're good buddies.
He did everything for him. Donald Trump is
David says cocaine is a hell of a drug.
I love how he puts that line in. He's like, no offense, Michael. And it's like, we go way back to like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
We're old buddies.
Look how he's handling the thing at the border. He's so bad at everything. He's incompetent.
And we're covering it.
He's incompetent. Yes, you're covering it.
The thing at the border.
And it's horrible. And that's why Michael Cohen is in the position he's in right now, where he's got he's decided that it's about his family and it's about the country. And it's not about Donald Trump. So he's going to do everything he can do.
Did he say, I'm going to try not to talk over you, but I do want to get these answers.
I'm going to try to not talk over you, but have you ever tried talking to someone that's really high? Like, it's hard. Next thing you'll be talking about different dimensions and new understandings of reality. I'm surprised they didn't conduct this interview in the bathroom.
I got to tell you, Tom Arnold is a freaking genius. And people aren't going to see that, but literally he just did the best promotion for his show on Viceland you could possibly do. He just got every member of CNN's audience to go check out what the hell craziness he's doing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was a massive troll.
Oh, man.
It's an absolute troll from start to finish. And you know what? Cohen's probably in on it too.
Did he tell you he has something incriminating on the president?
How could he not have something? How could you not have 1,000 things?
Is that a yes?
How can you not? Well, I know from my experience with and the legal, them suing me.
My thinking of Tom Arnold after seeing this, like most people were like, "Oh, this is an absolute disgrace." My respect for him actually went up. So that goes where he was, where he was before. It's like he had to reach up to touch a snake's ass before. Now it's like, okay,
appropriately, I might add, I think that would be bad. I can only speak from being on the other end of it. What is it you want me to say?
I have something incriminating.
Wait, what's the narrative you want me to sell? I'm sorry, I missed that.
What do you want me to say again? Oh, yeah.
The producer was talking to me, but I didn't get it.
Yeah. Well, you have a show that is about tapes, and we know that.
Oh yeah, he's got tapes. Oh my God, he recorded everybody. I'm sure he's
got tapes.
He has my name on those tapes.
Did he play?
Oh my God, you're doing check marks.
Did he play?
Doing check marks.
This is
Where's
how
Marty?
we
Where are you?
Look at him looking around.
Remember the last chick they had on CNN that was like, "Why are you doing this to me?"
Yeah. I think Tom wants to be the next Robin Williams. The problem for him is he's nowhere near as charming as only Robin Williams could get away with this, but I reckon that's who he was channeling when he was doing this.
No, my friend. Did he play any of the tapes he has for you?
Oh yeah, when I was getting a selfie.
Did he play any of the tapes? Well, you just said I have a show. Let me ask you this: if you had a TV show,
look at you.
So I guess that's a no.
And you hadn't premiered yet. You aren't premiering until September 19th on Viceland. Would you come on
September 19th on Viceland? He nails this. You've got to give credit where it's due.
On CNN.
He just
and would you reveal everything?
CNN.
Yep. I mean, real news, right? How dare you call us fake news? He's just constructed this entire plot with one selfie, and they couldn't wait. They were rushing, James. This is the thing. Like, you know, we didn't get around to it. We were going to talk about that story about the MAGA candidate who had the car accident, right? And I was going to put it to you. Am I right to be cynical now? Like, is it correct to be cynical because the media is so bad? And then you see something like this and you're like, no, absolutely.
There's no question. Absolutely. Cynicism is the entire thing that needs to take place. Yes.
Exactly.
I would answer the question.
No, you wouldn't.
I would say yes or no, he played tapes for me, or not yet, or no.
You would?
I would answer the question honestly. Yes.
Would you really?
I would.
He's interviewing the interviewer now. Oh my God, he's lost.
See, this is the thing. CNN, ladies and gentlemen, she still thinks this is a real interview. How slow they are. This is how bad they are. Tom Arnold has filled in for James and Boogie on the TAVshow.com. Tom Arnold is doing the hammering, like right now.
Okay. Earlier today, you apologized for telling NBC News that Cohen was working with you.
NBC, those bastards.
I apologize for saying.
Right. For saying that Cohen was working with you to take down the president. Can you just set the record straight for us?
Yes. Well, I mean, he is working. I mean, he's working with America.
He's working with America. America! Fuck yeah!
He's doing the right things. I mean, he's not working against America.
So now, to answer, is he working with you? Well, he's not working against me.
No.
What?
Is he working with Robert Mueller? He's working with America.
To take down, those are my words. Oh my God.
Look, they even put it up. Comedian Tom Arnold meets with Michael Cohen. Comedian Tom Arnold meets with Michael Cohen as he hunts for unreleased Trump tapes for new TV show. Comedian goes on CNN.
If you literally just substituted the word Loch Ness Monster for the Trump tapes, everything would be the same.
Yep.
The entire season would be the same. Like
King
literally.
Kong.
Yeah.
Aliens. Yeah, it would be like, oh my God, look, that Russian hooker is peeing on Donald Trump. She's wearing a wristwatch like Bigfoot.
Yeah, those are my words. Those are Tom Arnold words that I said. He is not actively. He's doing everything. Michael Cohen is working legally on the right side of the law and working with America. And he's not working for Donald Trump. And he's taking care of his family.
You know, he just sold our narrative. Did you hear that? Yep. Did you hear what he just? Yep. He literally just sold our narrative on CNN.
Working with America.
He is trolling the crap out of these people, and they don't see it. He literally just said, "No, Michael Cohen is not working for Donald Trump. He's working for America." So what happens when he has nothing? When he comes out with nothing, this is going to blow up in the left's face. It's amazing. Like, I can't believe he just did that.
My question is, James, who the hell is the production editor? Like, who's calling these shots? Like, okay, so I'm the editor at CNN, okay? James, you come to me and you say, boss, I've got this bombshell interview, killer interview. I'm like, who is it? And you're like, Tom Arnold. I'm like, okay, who's Tom Arnold? He's a former recovering drug addict who's starting a new show. He's a comedian, and he tweeted a selfie with Michael Cohen 3 days ago. And I'm like, prime time. Put it on prime time. It's got the goods. Here's the vetting.
Donald Trump. He does not work for Donald Trump now. Donald Trump says he doesn't even know who Michael Cohen is.
Does Michael Cohen feel like the president?
He doesn't even know who Michael Cohen is.
President has his back right now?
Oh, he doesn't have his back, and he doesn't feel like he has his back. Are you kidding me? And neither does Ivanka or any of those guys. No, I mean, would you feel like that?
Does he feel
would you
like,
honestly?
Huh?
Would you feel like that?
Would you?
I mean, are you kidding me?
Think America,
you should watch CNN. What's going on there?
Oh my God, I'm going to pass out. I'm getting so lightheaded from laughing so hard.
If that
you should watch CNN.
Like that, exactly. He is giving him a massive bitch slap, and he's not getting credit for it. I don't think. Just a massive middle finger to CNN. It has to be. He's like, you don't understand what's going on. You should watch more CNN.
Interested in what I think about it. I'm really interested in what you think.
Nobody cares what I think.
You know what's interesting?
Nobody cares what I think. That's why I was invited on the show.
You said with Michael Cohen.
Oh yeah,
when did those meetings happen?
When exactly?
Roughly.
Well, there was the one with Don Jr. at Trump Tower, and
when was that?
Paul Manafort. No, I'm just making up crap.
Come on.
Oh my God!
He literally just said, "I'm making up crap."
Last month.
And didn't he just say then, Michael, can you call in? Look.
Is this over the last 6 months?
It's the last. Again, Michael reminded me of that.
See, again, I just need to make sure that everybody understands we're playing this because it unequivocally proves how terrible CNN is. That this happened. Like, this is supposed to be serious cable news.
This happened live, and they put up a YouTube of it. They didn't even hide their crazy.
No. Oh, look, Tom Arnold spills the beans.
And it's been we have a history. One of my best friends is Steve Tisch, the godfather to his son, who's Michael's son's age, which I just remembered is something Michael didn't want me to mention again. And,
where Michael Cohen is staying.
And where Michael got raped by the FBI. There's a lot of...
So those meetings were within the last how many months?
I was at the Regency when the show...
So it's all been well after the FBI raid. All 6 of these have been after the FBI.
James, are you a betting man?
Yeah.
Are you a betting man? Yeah?
Yeah, I've bet my own career a couple times.
That's true. I would wager that in that meeting with Cohen, he said to Michael Cohen, look, I'm going to have a little fun with this on CNN. Are you cool with that? Do you think that happened? I reckon that would have happened.
I don't doubt it. You can look at, you want to know what the truth of that is? Like just a tiny, tiny bit. Michael Cohen retweeted Tom Arnold. Like, think about that.
Exactly.
Not only did he deny what Tom Arnold said, but he retweeted Tom Arnold acting crazy. Like, it's literally like, this might be the best LARP setup I've ever seen. Like, because there's only two answers here, right? He's either completely screwing with CNN, like you said, like we suppose, or like he believes is crazy. Either way, we win. It's literally hashtag we win.
Yeah, I imagine Cohen would have been like Tom Arnold comes up to you and says, "Hey, man, do you mind if I ham this up a little bit for the TV and make a bit of a joke about your whole case?" And Michael Cohen was I imagine Michael Cohen would have been thinking, "Oh, praise the Lord," because this delegitimizes, like, seriously, it delegitimizes the narrative against him, doesn't it? When this happens, so why would he be against that, right? It's a win-win. I promote my show. You get a little bit of positive press. Like, people think it's all a big joke and, everybody's happily ever after. Let's carry on with the hammering from Tom Arnold.
In his apartment, is that right?
His apartment, his I don't know, did they go, they went into his hotel room?
And apartment.
Let's say hypothetical.
Actually, let's
He can't help it. He's laughing.
He's laughing.
I want to stay away from hypothetical.
I bet you do.
But I want to in fact, Tom Arnold, what were the meetings about? Why have you been meeting with Tom Arnold?
Because Tom Arnold.
Why have you been meeting with Tom Arnold? And he was going to answer.
Good question. I hate that guy.
I'm not sure the context of the other meetings, and I swear I don't know. But say hello to last night was about eyeball, to say, I didn't know what was going to go down. I don't know if we were going to fight because I know that, and it turned out to be a good thing. It's just a face-to-face and to see what side he was on. To be, it was a come to Jesus thing.
Let me ask you something aside. I am listening. Let me ask you aside from Michael Cohen. You have admitted that your mission is to get the president out of the White House. You said it earlier today.
My jawbone is going to fall off.
It's horrible. Hold on 1 second. Let me just get the question out. You said it earlier today, and your new show is all about tapes. It's coming out in September.
Yes, it is.
Do you have any tapes of the president that the public is not already aware of?
Yes.
That no one else has seen other than you and your team.
But it wouldn't be damaging, is what he's saying.
Has heard. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And?
He's awful.
What can you tell us about them?
Well, I think that if people had really heard and seen who he was.
You know what he has, right?
Before. Now, this is a man that's been
from The Apprentice?
Yep. He's got that's what he's got. He has production tapes. That's what he's going to do this whole winter on his 9 episodes on Viceland. He's got production tapes that he's going to try to put out against the president. That's what he just gave away.
I still don't think that'd even be that bad. Because remember during the campaign, they were saying, we've got tapes of Donald Trump saying the N-word. And I'm like, well, you know what? In this era, they would have been out by now.
But now you have to watch the narrative build up. Now you have to watch how the CNN and MSNBC are going to try to build up Tom Arnold both before and once he launches. But yeah, it's going to be production tapes. It's going to be like before I go live with TAV show, Boogie and I are already online. We're already talking. When you do this at a network, they're already recording immediately because they're checking sound levels. They're checking volume of, background music. They're running through like a mock show, but everything's being recorded like virtually all the time. They're called production tapes. They're things that should never be seen by the public. And often that's where you get all your hot mic moments from, right? Because Boogie and I laugh our asses off, not just on the show, guys. We laugh before the show, after the show, tomorrow. I mean, so, who knows what we're even laughing about? That's basically what they're going to pull out, is they're going to pull something out where something gets said or whatever that seems salacious. It's probably going to be edited, but it's all going to be built up, and they're starting right here with CNN. So this is another thing. Yep. And think about the timing. Equivalent. September. Think about why is September important? Why is September important? Midterm elections.
Exactly. You know, to put it in layman's terms, James, it's the TV equivalent of being backstage at a rock concert or even a One Direction show, right? So the One Direction guys come out and do their show and they're all clean cut and they look good and, you know, butter wouldn't melt in their mouth. You don't see them 15 minutes before they go live with an 8-ball and half a dozen hookers running around, right? Like what you and I do.
Right? Talking about who he is, pretending he was somebody else to say he was richer than he was, rating women for how they looked, you know, walking in on women to miss.
See, you know, it's going to be, you know what it's going to be when it comes out, James? It's going to be what everyone expected of Trump, and it's not going to be anything that hurts him. Yep. It's going to be like, oh, wait, he was bragging about money and talking about how attractive women are. They're going to be like, oh, yeah, what else is new, right?
Yep.
Thanks, Tom.
Universe contest, naked, bragging about it. I'm just saying this. When you're president, the Library of Congress documents everything you've done. And I think that if you see, for instance, one full day on the boardroom set of The Apprentice, one full day, and you've seen how incompetent he was.
Is that what you have? Is
I like that, how he says, you know, this is unbecoming of a president, like this kind of language and stuff. Do you know what I watch, James? My wife has become quite a fan of the TV show Suits. Have you ever heard of Suits?
No.
And well, okay, Suits is a TV show about a couple of lawyers. And guess who was a co-star on this TV show called Suits? It was the lovely young newlywed princess Meghan Markle, James. So conduct unbecoming of a president when he rates women's looks. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got news for you. 2 days ago, I watched the current newlywed member of the royal family get banged up against a filing cabinet on TV. Right? Let's try to keep things in perspective.
Unaired tapes from his time on The Apprentice?
We have a lot of things.
Is that part of what you have, Tom?
We have a lot of things.
I would tell you that every tape, the P tape, I would bet that every tape is real.
I would bet.
I'm sorry.
Here we go.
Are you talking about the word he used on Access Hollywood? The Access Hollywood tape?
Well,
is that
real.
What you're talking about?
The pussy tape's real.
Let's not use that word.
You see what he just did? Oh, my Lord. Do you see what he just did? He's using
the P tape.
The P tape to replace the Access Hollywood tape, but he's using that specifically because that has a secondary connotation back to the Russian dossier. Like literally, this is how you would do that. He's selling his show. That's all he's doing. He wants every single eyeball on the planet to tune into Viceland to see what he has on tape now. And it's almost, even though we hate him because of what he's trying to do, like we will still tune in because we want to know. Like, oh my God, this is the best promotional video ever known to man. Like this should be studied in school after this. This is the best troll ever.
It's a troll worthy of Trump. It's a troll worthy of Trump. If I was Trump, I would hire him. Like I would hire him up. You can be my media guy.
I apologize.
Look at him.
Thank you. What are the tapes that you can tell us that you have that are unaired?
I'm not going to tell you. You'll have to watch the show.
You'll have to watch the show. I love it. He's promoting his future internet TV show on a future internet TV network.
Well, I can't even say the words because they're so disgusting. And it's the president of the United States. I can't say what Donald Trump is involved with because it's disgusting.
He wasn't always a president.
Because people are watching right now. You're talking about the president of the United States.
And by the way, there's children being torn from their parents, and they need
there we go.
That's what's disgusting, right? Like there's no game.
Don't forget the children torn from their parents, James.
We have been covering it.
I know you constantly,
have. And you saw my show this week.
No, I know. That's why I am going to keep on him.
But my question to you is, you're asserting that you have tapes that the public has seen.
I have a show, and you're going to see 8 episodes.
Let me just finish really quick.
8 episodes. There we go.
That you have tapes.
Oh, not 8.
that look very bad, it seems, for the president of the United States.
They'll give me walking a dog 8 episodes. The American public
has not seen, and you can't tell me you say the content of the tapes because you want people to watch your show.
Yeah, I do. That's it.
Hold on.
That's it.
That's it. No eyeballs, no paycheck.
Darling, he literally just told you why he's on your show, and you want people to watch your show, which is why you've brought him on your show to talk about his show. He just got in there really, 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 really sneaky. I think we might end it there. We've gone double, triple overtime. James, ladies and gentlemen, how to troll the mainstream media from the most unlikely of sources. Tom Arnold, soon-to-be TV internet star on soon-to-be TV internet network. There you go. There's Yammering.
The hammering.
Folks, that is all the time we have for you tonight. What a spectacular hammering. That may go down in history as our best hammering for sure so far, but maybe forever. Like, we didn't even have to do much but laugh. We let Tom hammer himself right down into the middle of the wood. Like, he didn't even stop at the surface. He went all the way down. Anyways, folks, we will see you next week. Don't forget to check us out on tavshow.com. All your favorite broadcasters are there. You can link to them from there. You can follow me at Real Person Politics. You can follow Boogie at Boogie Bumper, and you can follow us at Tav Show. Good night. Aloha. Everybody have a great day.